You are now tuned in to Go Time Dolphins with Charlie Touche and Kadeem Simmons, the Miami Dolphins podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. Go. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Go. Don't waste no time.
We are through Black Monday and the coaching carousel is well underway, I should say. Even days after the season finishes, we are seeing coaches lose their jobs, GM lose their jobs, a bunch of interviews, and that includes a few Dolphin staffers who are heavily recruited this coaching cycle. To join me, as always, to talk about this, we do have a guest today, but for now, it's just myself and Mr. Charlie Touche. Charlie, what time is it?
I see you, Kadeem. It's Go Time Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins podcast that goes not only across the pond, but across the world. I'm your boy, Charlie Touche. Got my co-host, Kadeem Simmons, with me. It's always for the fans and by the fans. Your favorite podcast, and official affiliates of Fanatics, where you could be a fanatic of your favorite franchise. What's the word, Kadeem?
Cold in London, but outside of that, no, it's all good. All good. As I said, we're seeing a few more GM changes in the league. A few, I don't say unexpected coaches being fired, but normally once Black Monday passes, it's kind of done. But you've seen the Raiders get rid of not only their head coach but their GM as well. And yeah, the interviews for coaches has really started to ramp up. And I guess from a Dolphins perspective, it all comes down to one, what happens with Anthony Weaver, and for a lot of fans, how is Danny Crossman still in a job? But there's still plenty of time for things to be rectified, all the moving pieces, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Kadeem, you mentioned we had a guest on the show. Not gonna keep it waiting too long. This is not his first time on it, so we don't really gotta dress it up too much. Almost knows where all the cups and the plates are in the cabinet and can probably make a drink for himself. Maybe not yet, but we're gonna bring him in anyway. FinsExtra, renowned Dolphins personality in the Twitter spaces. FinsExtra, what's going on?
What's going on, boys? Pleasure.
Bro. Is it Fabio? Is it FinsExtra? Is it FinsExtra Fabio? Is it Fabio from FinsExtra? What we doing? What is it, bro?
Whatever you want to call me. My name's Fabio, but the FinsExtra is the name of the page. I'm Fabio. But, just thought I'd put it out there.
What you got, Kadeem?
I think we go with FinsExtra. FinsExtra is a persona. And yeah, if they're going to introduce you, tag you and stuff, to me, it has to be FinsExtra. Like
I like FinsExtra, but I kind of like FinsExtra Fabio. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's got the you know what I'm saying? What is it? What's it called when you put the FF? FinsExtra Fabio. What's the alliteration?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it has the alliteration there. But hey, y'all figure it out for yourselves, man. Fabio, man, we're about to watch the playoffs from home this week, bro. That's not where we want to be.
Life's different compared to last year. Last year, at this point of the season, maybe a couple of weeks ago, was fighting for the number one seeds, two MVP conversations, and then now it's nothing. It's nothing going on. Season's done. It goes by super quick. It feels like the season started yesterday. It's crazy.
What you got for us, Kadeem? Hey, y'all said it's cold out there.
Oh yeah. This is different. This is different. Yeah. Don't be fooled by me wearing a t-shirt because it's warm in my room, but outside it's chopping out there. It's crazy.
What is it in Celsius, Kadeem?
My phone says it is currently where's the weather app? It is 0 degrees.
Oh, that's an easy one. That's 32 degrees Fahrenheit. For everybody, we ain't got a fact check that. That's the easiest one possible. But yeah, so 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. that's a bit nippy. That's a cold weather game if we was playing. But
Yeah,
what you got for us, Kadeem? Where we going?
So, as I mentioned, Anthony Weaver, I should have got this up a bit sooner. Anthony Weaver has had interviews with the Chicago Bears. That was today. The Bears have announced, or the Bears did announce that they've completed their interview. And it's also, I believe, the Saints as well. So that's two teams. Surprised there hasn't been more, to be honest. But Anthony Weaver, I think for most Dolphin fans, it's not surprising that he is being considered to be a head coach. But his defense this year hasn't been perfect. And I think it's interesting, depending on who you speak to. Some fans are really high on Anthony Weaver and others are not. So yeah, whether Anthony Weaver stays or not, I thought would be a good time to discuss. Does Anthony Weaver's defense pass the eye test? And as a guest, FinsExtra, what do you think about Anthony Weaver?
I think he's brilliant. I mean, what he's been able to do with the defense this year, especially with the injuries, especially with the lack of quality, really and truly, the poor tackling, coverage, especially the injuries on the defensive side, especially pass rushing. I mean, we were relying on a rookie to be our best pass rusher this year, and the reality is that he just didn't have the pieces to be able to go out there and dominate the way we thought, Dolphins he could dominate. So I think he's been absolutely fantastic with what he's been able to work with. Our safeties ain't been up to par. Our corners have been in and out, especially the injuries. Have been linebackers, Jordan Brooks player, but we started off with David Long, and then we brought in Anthony Walker, who I thought was alright, but then Tyler Dotson, the verdict's still out on that one. Pass rushing, the interior, I feel like that's probably our strength. Obviously, with Zach Sealer and Calais Campbell, but Calais Campbell only plays around 54% of the snaps. So how much can you rely on him to produce the pass rush that we need? And then obviously on the edges, we're very limited. Ogbar, Chop, those guys. So I just feel like with what we've got, with the pressure that we're able to produce, which is not that high, I feel like he's done absolutely fantastic, to be honest. And I think if he stays another year, I just want to see him with Chubb and Phillips and Chop and a couple free agency additions. Just want to see what he's really about with with better players on the roster.
Hey, Chris Rock, one of my favorite comedians. I ain't gonna lie to you. And Chris Rock had this joke about Janet Jackson and Jermaine Dupri. And he was like, yo, I didn't know there was a clearance going on, like there was a sale going on, basically. And the reason why I brought that up is because I feel like the question was, does it pass the eye test? And I feel everything you said, bro, about, yeah, he didn't have anything to work with. And I brought it up several times. But I'm gonna be real with you. For me, it doesn't pass the eye test. And then I think what are the actual stats, Kadeem? Is the Dolphins had the 6th overall defense? Is that right?
So I'm glad you said that, because I just brought up PFF and I was like, let me see where. And again, this is just by PFF. There's so many different metrics, all that kind of stuff. But I've got PFF and I have it by defense, so you can see how small does that look on screen. Actually, let me double check.
Looks like it's a 17. Is that accurate?
Well, it does, but I meant just the general stats.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. People can see that.
Cool.
We can see that.
So yeah, by the end of the season, I guess not even somehow, some way, but the Dolphins, just an overall defense, have the 17th ranked defense. A few teams above them. To me, none really surprised me. I don't think there's any teams. So for those not watching on YouTube, the Eagles are first, Chiefs second, Steelers third, Broncos fourth, Lions fifth, Chargers sixth, Ravens seventh, Browns eighth, Colts ninth, Texans 10th, Vikings 11th, Chicago Bears 12th, Packers 13th, Seahawks 14th, and then the 49ers 15th, Falcons 16th, and the Dolphins 17th. The Dolphins, according to PFF, have a middle of the pack defense. Pardon, that was sorry. So Charlie, now that you've seen that, does it still not pass the eye test? Like, Middle of the pack defense.
Here's the thing, and if we could leave this up, it never passed the eye test for me. Like I always thought we lost a bunch of games this year because of the defense. It felt like, and watching it, I felt like, yo, defense is laid down, gave this game away, and here we are. Cardinals game, to be more specific. So that was a game. It was just real comfortable. Dolphins going to walk away with this, and then next thing you know, we didn't. Texans game, I don't know, bro. It was just, and you know, obviously not exonerating anything that offense did in that Texans game, but just on the surface of the question, does it pass the eye test? I don't believe it passed the eye test. And again, this is a metric according to PFF. I think there's something else out there that has us as maybe like the 10th ranked defense at the end of the season, and maybe 4 weeks before the end of the season ended, it was like the 6th ranked defense. Maybe it was the 6th ranked scoring defense. Not completely sure. If you go back to the original one that you had up, Kadeem, I wanted to something that stood out. If you look at this, for all the audio listeners, you can come over to YouTube. When you do come over to YouTube, if you can hit that like button for us, we appreciate you. You got to go all the way down to 8th with the Cleveland Browns before you find a team that is not in the playoffs. So according to PFF, the top 10 teams, there's only 2 teams in the top 10 defenses, according to PFF, that are not in the playoffs. All right. All I'm saying is we were a couple games out the playoffs. I mean, we don't fit in with the rest of these teams, if I'm being honest with you, when it comes to defense. So it's not an indictment on Weaver at all because of what Fabio said, which was, yo, he didn't have anything to work with. Y'all asking for like 5-star chef meals, and you only gave me ramen and peanut butter and crackers to work with. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not cool. So I feel Fabio, I feel Weaver too. And that's why he's getting interviewed now. And I don't believe he lands anywhere, if I'm being real with you. I don't believe he gets a spot. And I think we will retain him. But at the same time, I'm not over the top about what I'm seeing with Weaver. Although I do believe he'll have a chance to show the world what's up next season when he has some better ingredients to work with. Kadeem.
Yeah, because to that, I was looking at these actually, because I was just doing some end of season research earlier on. Now this is if you rank this by tackling, it'll get real bleak. We're the worst in the league alongside the Cleveland Browns. We're in the top 10 as well. So to me, when I look at this if anything proves Weaver's point. Because these gradings are done essentially on average. So you've got all the players individually, and then you average them out, and then you get this. The reality is, apart from maybe, 3 players, we don't have any players outside of, I believe, Calais Campbell and Jordan Brooks and Zach Sealer. We don't have any other defenders in the top 15 when it comes to getting. Oh, and Jalen Ramsey. We don't have any other players in the top 15 when it comes to graded players. So in other words, like you said, you've asked Anthony Weaver, can you please produce a 5-star Michelin meal? But then you've given me rice and chips. It's like, but then when you look at the stats and the ranks and the stats, we're top 5 pretty much all across the board. Now, I hear you in terms of the Arizona game, and some of those stats could be, some people can go, bad quarterback playing, but then when you play those top flight quarterbacks, Josh Allen's and stuff like that, the D was a bit but that's when the pass rush comes into play, because the Dolphins D mainly struggled against who? Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, those mobile quarterbacks. We need the pass rush to get after those guys, and we just don't have that. So, and the coverage sometimes can be questionable as well. Kyler Murray, not only was he getting out the pocket, Marvin Harrison ran as ragged, and I just feel like Anthony Weaver, and to be fair, and part of it as well, outside of the stats that we have, I think just who he is as a coach and as a man as well, I think he's very well respected around the league. I just feel he deserves those interviews. Now, I feel like he's gonna be asked to stay around another year. He reminds me a lot of the situation on the Texans, where Bobby Slowick, he had this great season with CJ Stroud, but teams around the league gonna go, can you do it for another year, please? And then we'll see. And then this year he wasn't all that, so they'll kind of probably do the same with Weave, and hopefully we get him for another year and and then they can go from there.
That's a good point, bro.
Just want to quickly add as well. So the defense, is ranked 17th, 67.8. One defense is a top 7 unit, 73.9. It's amazing how the Browns are first, but is what it is. As you mentioned, tackling is just absolutely buns. 28.5, 31st ranked overall. That's
Tied for 31st. So that means we're last.
Yeah.
That means we're last. You tied for last, basically.
Pass rush has us 20th, 67.7, and then coverage has us 25th, 55.6. My question to you guys, and also shout out to Cap for Life. It says, gentlemen, FinsExtra, finally, FinsExtra getting that love.
Love every time.
Parag Vyas says Dobson was graded 4th out of 178, coverage only. My question is, how much of it is down to coaching? And I ask that because the Dolphins not being able to tackle isn't a Anthony Weaver issue. That goes back. I can't even think of the last Dolphins defense where I saw secure tackling from week 1 to week 16. Now we've got 17. And how much is also down to a lack of options. And I say that again because outside of missing Phillips for the second half of the season and Chubb all season, who else did the Dolphins miss? They had their starting safety, but they were buns. Kendall Fuller was in and out of the team with injuries, but it's not like he was using the plays that Brian Flores had. Like the Dolphins had a starting defense out most of the season, barring 1 or 2 players per week. So Charlie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't know that we were missing players. Like it's not like we was missing players like when we played Kansas City where 11 people from the defense was hurt. Nothing like that. And even still, just because you're a backup, you're still in the NFL. That doesn't mean you can miss tackles. You know what I'm saying? Like just because you're not a starter in the NFL doesn't mean you forget how to tackle. So missing tackles is always a problem. If you're missing, like if you're looking like the Dolphins, bro, like you said, it's always been a thing, bro. So I'm not sure that it even matters who was missing. Like you're in the NFL, you've been tackling for the better part of your life. You don't know how to tackle now? That's the issue, bro.
FinsExtra, what do you think?
Yeah, tackling. I mean, you can coach it, but you can. The coach can't be out there tackling for the guys. I mean, some of the guys are some of the most reliable tacklers I've seen play for the Dolphins over the last, let's say, 2-3 years. Javon Holland, to me, when he came to the NFL, he was booming on people. He was hit sticking guys. And now all of a sudden he's got. I done some research a couple of weeks ago, or when the season finished rather, and he's got the worst tackling grades out of all safety since week 8. Since he had the knee injury, so it's just like, what's going on here? This is a contract year, and now contract years, you're meant to be the guy. That's when usually people produce, and then somehow, somewhere, you've gone from this sort of Pro Bowl caliber safety to just completely guys running over you. When Javon Holland was known for being a hard hitting safety. Now in terms of tackling, you can't really attribute culture to be honest, because tackling is just whether you want it or not. But I'm glad we're starting to get some guys like Jordan Brooks in there. Jalen Ramsey, a bit of a leader as well. I just feel like we just need to get some of these hard-nosed sort of physical players. I've got a history in the NFL of hitting hard. I mean, Jordan Brooks has got in single season wise, he's got the 3rd most tackles in NFL history.
Bro, I don't know where they found Jordan Brooks from. I don't know. Bro, I don't know where they found Jordan Brooks from.
No, but the thing, he's always been good. It's just that he came off the ACL, and then it was just questions. He came back last year, but he's always been one of the best tacklers in the NFL. And we just need to start carrying over, getting those guys. But it's just more so the injuries. To your point, I don't think it's more so the injuries that we have. It's just the depth behind those injuries. Kendall Fuller comes in, and now we're relying on a and draft a rookie to come and play. Yeah, you've been tackling all your life, but you've been tackling playing for, Louisville. So how many reps have you got in NFL? And then Cam Smith, God knows what's going on with that. Because as we've seen in Dolphins games, as soon as Kendall Fuller's not playing, they're throwing to one side and one side only. They're throwing wherever's Jalen Ramsey's not at. And we've seen Cam Smith against the Bills. We've seen Storm Duck against the Packers. Against those big teams, they know exactly where to throw the ball to, and it works every time. And, it's just something that needs to be a point of emphasis this summer for sure.
Can I just say very quickly? Sorry, Charlie. Two things. Shout out to IMAX. What's up, Kadeem, Charlie, in chat. Richard Keys asks missing tackles or avoiding tackles, and then Robert Ashton says hi everyone. But you mentioned Jalen Ramsey, and I'll say this from now. Ramsey didn't have a good season. I'm not gonna sit here, and I've seen people. Oh, Ramsey been amazing, all that kind of stuff. No, Ramsey is part of the missing tackles brigade. Like Ramsey had been cooked multiple weeks. Like that first paper planes game, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams had him in a blender.
Oh yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr. had him in a blender. And it's interesting that we even moved him around quite a lot, had him blitzing quite a lot. But it was quite often I was like, yo, Ramsey, I need that lockdown, like I need you to revert to type. And we'll do an episode about this later on in the off season. I wouldn't be surprised if Ramsey's days they move into safety and just go, just play kind of sideline to sideline. Like you trying to play man on guy. Yeah, like you playing man, that might not be the way no more. Because
then someone could put a point forward and say, I mean, these guys are having to cover for a little longer than usual.
Nah, because
that sounds accurate to me. That sounds pretty accurate.
Someone could go, listen, these guys are having to cover for way more because Jalen Ramsey last year he came to the Dolphins and it was like, oh my God, like, he's locking everyone down. Guys are literally not now. Bear in mind, obviously with Vic Fangio, we play more zone, but they literally completely avoided the side of the field.
Chubb and Phillip active. Chubb and Phillip was active.
But then Chubb and Phillips.
So to that point, it's like
hold on. So Ramsey came back, was it week 8? And Chubb and Phillips went down soon after. And there's games, and I've got examples. I think there's a 4th down against the paper planes, and Ramsey, I think, is playing press against Garrett Wilson. Off the snap, beat. Yeah, this year. Off the snap, beat.
This year against Garrett Wilson, it was ugly. Even the second game, there was some glimpses of that again.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's been issues where it's not even you've been like, it's because pass rush like didn't get there. You've been beat from the jump. You just haven't been there. Yeah. And again, listen, as you get older, you slow down a bit and stuff like that. I just think the Ramsey that I've seen, I'm not saying he's a bottom 10 corner or anything like that. I just think people are making it out like he's had another stellar year. And it's like, no, he's been not a massive part of the problem, but Ramsey has been one of the issues that the Dolphins, in my opinion, need to be like, hey, let's see if we can try and work out how to get you back to your best, because this season wasn't it. But he set a very high standard. I will give him that.
Bro, shout out to Richard Keys for the comment. Missing tackles or avoiding tackles. I know we just talked about this, but bro, there was a Xavier Howard. We were on the goal line. This is a couple seasons ago. We were on the goal line. We were playing against Leonard Fournette. I don't know what team he was on at the time. But it was like 4th down inside the 3, and they ran Leonard Fournette, and Xavier Howard had a chance to put his body on the line in front of the goal line. Like, all right, just make a stop, and everybody gang tackle. Xavier Howard pulled his best, what is it, Matador? Like, woo, and just moved out the way, bro, and let him fall right into the end zone. So you see, and then I'll be real, some of the angles aren't the best. Like, so you seen Kader Cole take terrible angles. Like, we had a TFL in the backfield off a screen, and next thing you know, that screen goes 16 yards when we had him in the backfield. So I know the tackling isn't coaching, but still, bro, like, I don't know, man. Maybe something needs to change. I know that for sure. And what you were saying, Fabio, bro, going back to Brooks and Landon Roberts of recent years, bro. These boys' mentalities are different. You have to be different to be a linebacker. Yeah. Like, you have to think different. You just know, oh, this is a football player. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you talk to linebackers, in real life, when you
Obviously,
just
yeah.
have a
Thumper.
conversation with them, they don't talk like regular people.
I
They
can't
just
remember
program different.
if it was for the Dolphins or the Steelers, but there was one time it was a short yardage
It
situation, and
was
then
for the
Landon
Steelers.
Roberts
Over the top on the 1 yard line.
He literally, it was helmet to helmet. It was literally
Yeah.
dome against dome, and he
No,
stopped him
did
that
he?
way. And I remember when I seen that, I was like, "We need that. We need that."
We had that.
Because I remember on the Dolphins,
we
it
don't
was
have
one
it
of
no
those.
more.
Every time he shot through the gap, it was always a collision. He always shot through the right gap. I don't know what was going on there, but you always knew which gap to go through, and there was always a collision, and the collision was loud, whether he won or lost. But to your point, he always put his body on the line, and whatever happened, happened. If
That
he
was the
wins the
Steelers.
rep, fair enough. That's why
I
he's
don't
on
know.
the Steelers.
I don't know who the Steelers played that game, but it was on the goal line. It might have been 4th down too. Like, this is it,
Yeah.
all or nothing. And it was one of the best football plays you're gonna see. When you hear football,
Don't.
it's like you're gonna watch it and you be like, "Oh, this is football right here." And that was Atlanta
yes.
Roberts. But I think there was a penalty on that play, and then and Bert was like, "Oh, well, now it doesn't count." Like, nah, bro, we seen it. It counts. You know what I'm
It
saying?
is against the Dallas Cowboys. It is 2nd and goal in the 4th quarter.
Yeah,
36 seconds left. Pittsburgh are
there it
winning
is. Game on the line.
17-13. Yeah. So I just got
Situation.
That's
It's been a long time since we've had something like that.
Quick question for both of you guys. Fins, actually, you might know the answer. Where do you think Jalen Ramsey is ranked in terms of corners on PFF grade?
PFF grade wise, I believe he's
Just coverage. Just coverage.
Coverage. Let me find out for you.
Well, no. I know the answer. Like,
Okay.
I know the
This
answer.
ain't an open book quiz. It's not an open book quiz.
Coverage wise, I don't believe he's got a good grade. Just coverage.
Do you
I
think
would be surprised if he was inside the top 20, to be honest.
Okay, so you don't think he's inside the top 20. Charlie, what about you?
He's inside the top 20.
I don't know, bro. PFF be all over the place with this. Like, I don't know, bro. So I have no idea. But I know if we're mentioning it, it can't be good.
I need an answer.
I got 30th. 30th overall.
You got 30th. He is ranked 39th.
39th, yeah.
39th. Jalen Ramsey, 71.9, just down there. He's clearly the highest ranked Miami player. But it's interesting. Like, Marshall Lattimore is just underneath him. No, did he? But you have Pat Surtain, 3rd overall. Where's the guy I saw earlier? Cooper DeJean, 12th. That is a impressive rookie season. How is Eli Apple 15th?
No, but some of these,
see what I'm saying about
these guys have barely played snaps.
See what I'm saying?
Some of these guys have not really played snaps.
Of course, yeah. Also, the other one, the interesting one, was Derek Stingley Jr. at 22. So yeah. Shout out to Roy in the Locks. He says that mentality is partly coached into players, though. Our friendly environment doesn't create those dogs. What I will say on that, before I pass on to these two guys about that, it's not just this year. It's not just this defensive coordinator. It's been multiple defensive coordinators. Even under Brian Flores and a really good defense. At times, they just completely forgot how to tackle. You bring in someone like Jordan Poyer, who no one could call him soft going into this season, completely fine in Buffalo, gets to Miami, just forgets the basics. And yeah, it's I was looking at it earlier. The Dolphins across the board have a lot of holes to sort out. I feel like on defense as well. What do you reckon, FinsExtra? If you had to rank the top 3 position upgrades for the Dolphins on defense this season, and Anthony Weaver's going to stay. Let's assume Anthony Weaver stays. What do you think his top? No, he's in a meeting with Chris Greer. He's like, "Hey, I need this, this, and this." How would you rank it?
Safety, cornerback, and defensive tackle. That's assuming that Calais Campbell don't come back.
Yeah, Charlie, how about you?
I need the question again.
You're Anthony Weaver. You are speaking to Chris Greer ahead of free agency and the draft and say, "Hey, to get to where I need to be, I need this position, and this position. The top 3 positions of need for the Dolphins on defense."
I gotta take this call, so I'm gonna need your answer first. I'll come back to it.
Cool. So yeah, safety 100%. Whether you keep friend of the podcast Javon Holland or not, you need at least one safety.
Yeah, 100%.
Patrick McMorris is someone who I think in typical sports fashion, because we don't know what he is, we've already anointed him as something really, really good. People are like, oh, we must play Patrick McMorris.
Yeah,
Based on what?
Preseason is completely different.
Yeah, like
Skylar Thompson was looking amazing in preseason. I mean,
Skylar Thompson and Ezzy Karma looked like they were going to be the next 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
So,
and then it's just So preseason, I wouldn't put too much stock into it. But then when he goes now, obviously you can only do what you can do. Patrick McMorris put the film on tape. He done what he did, and they obviously hold him to certain regards. That's why they kept him over some veterans. But I wouldn't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to bank on that, to be honest. I just want to rather to drop someone pretty high up, to be honest, on that.
What was your answer, Kadeem?
Yeah, so I've got safety, I've got linebacker, and I was going to say defensive tackle, but I have a feeling we're going to need another edge rusher. Because again, you have no idea where you're going to get from friend of the podcast Bradley Chubb, and it's another bad injury for Jalen Phillips. I'd rather make sure I've got another edge rusher just in case those two need some time, and I can ease them back into full-time rotation. What about you, Charlie?
If you go edge, that's the writing on the wall for both of them. So you're not bringing back Chubb or Phillips. Like when Phillips' contract elapsed, that's going to be done. And another thing is that's even if Chubb comes back this season.
Yeah,
I don't even know if Chubb comes back this season. So if you go edge in the draft early, like we did Chop Robinson, and find another edge in the first around 13th, or we trade back or whatever, I imagine Phillips is not going to get re-signed either. My first answer my first thought would be DB. But you can never have enough DBs, bro. So I would say DB, and whether you go safety or a corner, it would be understandable for me.
But the thing is, Chris Greer has actually tried to do this DB thing over God knows how long. It just never works out. He just never drops the right guy. But,
so you just stop? Do you just stop?
What's that?
Do you just stop?
No, absolutely. We need DBs. My answer was safety, corners.
He drafted Javon Holland though.
I was going to say
and Brandon Jones.
But we're not going to re-sign Poyer.
And Minka Fitzpatrick.
Hold on, bro. Hold on, bro.
Yeah, Chris Greer can draft safety. That's what he can
do.
do.
That's three safeties, bro. That's three starters.
No, but then if we go through Cam Smith, Noah.
Oh yeah, he can't draft corners.
First rounder, second rounder. Those are some big misses considering the players that we missed straight after that. I mean, Jonathan Taylor was right there.
That's a little bit different from it's never worked out.
It hasn't worked out of recent. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick, he got shipped out, but that's a rebuild. That's a different story. But,
I think that's on Flores too, by the way, though.
That is.
But Flores, I think we've seen over the last 24 hours what Ryan Fitzpatrick said. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many positions that you got to worry about. My answer in short would be DB. Maybe you double down on DB. And, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you double down on DB, and the third one would be linebacker. But I wanted to ask Fabio Kadeem if it's straight. I don't know where you're going with this. I wanted to ask Fabio, we don't have your take on what happened at the end of the season. We mentioned that we're watching the playoffs from home now. What's your take on Tyreek? What do you trade him? Do you move him? Do you try to fix it? What do you do? And also, are you happy we retained McDaniel and Chris Greer? What are your thoughts on the whole everything, how the season ended?
In terms of the Tyreek situation, I don't see. I mean, I think he'll stay. I don't think he'll get traded. Now, since the whole situation happens, there's been a lot of flip-flopping. It's emotions. It's this, it's that. The agents come out today talking about he's committed to the Dolphins, but then they asked him if Tyreek Hill wants to stay. He said, I don't know. I haven't spoken to him. It's a lot of flip-flopping. I don't think we'll be able to trade him. The cap hit's too big unless it becomes a situation where Tyreek Hill says, I don't want to be here anymore, and it becomes toxic and this and that. I just think they'll probably try and make amends.
Isn't that what he did? Isn't that what he did?
No, but if he after the game, because right now there are excuses. Because no, I believe he wants to leave, but their excuse to try and make amends is heat of the battle, heat of the moment, emotional. Now he's the only player that said it, and he wasn't the only player. In fact, he was the only player that asked out the game. So, he's the only player that said it. So he wants to leave. Now they're using all these excuses. So I think they will try to, amend the situation because at the end of the day, we just paid the guy another 60 to 90 million this past summer. It's a big cap hit, so I think they're going to try to get another year out of him. But I believe this is probably the last. If he stays, I believe this is the last season that we see him as a Miami Dolphin. So I think he'll stay because the cap hit, whether you release him in the summer, whether you release him post June 1st, either way, the cap hit is too big, and we've got too many holes to fill. And obviously Tyreek Hill's a good player at the end of the day. It's just a matter of whether Tua can stay healthy or not. In terms of the coaching, Chris Gear and whatnot, I mean, Miami Dolphins is the only organization that I've seen not win a playoff game, and God knows how long the GM stays. So I want him to stay. I guess to a point where you got to hold. There's got to be some accountability, and that goes into the culture of it. Because if the players are going, okay, I'm not producing, but then I look high up and I'm looking at Chris Greer, who's been really true. He's been in the brain trust of the organization for the last 25 years, and he's still here, and there's been no success. I mean, I can miss tackles. I'll still be around. I mean,
what about
cool.
McDaniel?
I mean,
what you cool with keeping McDaniel?
McDaniel, I'm cool with keeping him another year. See if he, because at the end of the day, now the drop off between Tua and whatever goes on without him, yeah, you can say the quarterback play is average at best, is very poor without Tua, but at the same time, that goes back to Chris Greer. He didn't address the backup quarterback position, and that goes to McDaniel because there should be a plan, a no Tua plan, and the Packers proved this point. The Packers got Malik Willis, who really and truly would have probably been out the league if it wasn't for them. Jordan Love got injured, and he played 2-3 games, and all of a sudden, people talking about, whoa, like what's going on here?
Bro.
So I'm saying that to say it's a culture thing. There's no accountability on the Dolphins, and until Chris Greer really goes, until they just completely clean up the building, it's just not going to happen. Because every year it's, we trust the process, we trust what we do, this and that. Now, back to the McDaniel question. Yeah, I'll give him another year because obviously what he's done the last 2 years in terms of the offense. Now, do I believe, honestly, with a different coach? In fact, I believe McDaniel's kind of underachieved with his team, what we had, especially last year, to be honest. But with the offense, we kind of give him another chance and see how it goes. But in general, forget McDaniel. I just believe you need a leader of men leading your football team. It's an alpha sport. You got all those 6'8", 308-pound men. You need a leader of men, and he just to me is an offensive coordinator. He's safe to his career, but now I just believe that we need to go into the next stage and just get someone to completely revamp this culture because the culture's rotten. And then I hear sometimes, oh yeah, culture, Miami, you can never build a culture. Miami Heat, they built a pretty decent culture out there. So, I just think that, yeah, give him another year, but it has to be the last year. I mean, you can't keep tolerating this, and you got to hold people accountable. If you're not doing your job, you got to go out. Simple as that.
So I got a question for both of y'all now. We watched the Dolphins get mopped against Baltimore, and Bradley Chubb was left in and ended up missing an entire season. First, he missed the playoffs because of the injury. Then he missed this entire season because we didn't pull our starters or we didn't pull people out the field, had them playing in garbage time, and everybody hit us with the question, why was he out there? Why is everybody so upset that Tyreek pulled himself from the game? If we knew there was nothing to play for now. If it was 31-zip when Tyreek walked off the field, it was 31-zip in the playoff game. Why is everyone so upset? And because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are thinking, why are our starters even in there if we're not going to the playoffs now? So am I tripping for believing maybe Tyreek was right for pulling himself off the field? Am I tripping?
Charlie, you was there live on Monday when I was like, the people complaining the most, and still are the ones that checked out themselves. The people were like, that's it, I'm not watching this game no more, I don't like this, are the ones angry at Tyreek Hill. It's interesting that Drew Rosenhaus came out today and said that Tyreek broke his wrist in pre-season in a scrimmage against the Commanders, and yet didn't want to miss the season, so played through the entire season. And I don't blame him for getting to listen. I don't agree with what he did, but I don't blame him for getting to week 18, seeing the Broncos up 31-0, you're down 18-6 in the third quarter and going, what am I doing? Like, let
I
me
feel you, bro.
and again, it's like I said, people when we lost the Texans, people were saying, Tyreek, go get your surgery. He got his surgery again. As I said on Monday, and I'll say it again. People, in my opinion, are angry that Tyreek did what he did, despite the fact that they already did it. But he did it when they didn't want him to do it, if that makes sense. People didn't care. If after the Texans, Tyreek goes, I'm done, I'm getting this surgery, everyone go, yeah, cool, fair enough, because the season's done. When Tyreek pulled himself from the game, the season was done. Like I said, I think there's a lot of crybabies in the fan base, who speak about coach and all that kind of stuff, and need to look in the mirror and go, yo, if you think it's okay to travel from London to Miami and leave a game early or turn off your TV because the team's losing, don't moan at players when they go, hey, I'm done as well. Like, that's just my opinion. People don't need to agree with it.
I think with Tyreek is just an accumulation of how people really feel about him, to be honest, in terms of the fan base. Now, I don't really agree with it, to be honest. You know, they bring up his personal life and kind of put it on the field and just assume that he's just like this horrible human being that, oh yeah, he's got a lot of kids. I mean, so what really? Um, but in terms of that case, I think it's just mainly optics rather than the actual logic of it. Because I think it was a very well known fact that he came into the season with a broken wrist. Now, the broken wrist, I believe, is not an excuse for some of the plays he should have or didn't make, but I think as a whole, it's just more the optics of it. Now, do I believe he should have gone about it a different way? Absolutely. I mean, he could have just asked the coaches out rather than just putting yourself out of the game. But the reality is that yeah, we was out of the playoffs by that point. I mean, I was more interested in the Broncos game than I was, to be honest. And I'm a Dolphins fan. Because I've got two screens. I had the big screen on with the Broncos game, and because obviously that one kind of decided our fate. But I mean, that game, the Broncos game, it was done in the first quarter. I mean,
Yeah.
it was literally done in the first quarter. And if you was watching it, I mean, the Chiefs literally had no offense. They couldn't put two first downs together. So it was kind of like, okay, let's play for pride. But it's just a matter of obviously optics and stuff like that, rather than the actual fact of it. Because if you play the rest of the game and he tore his ACL, I'd be like, oh, why was he out there? So it's just
1,000,000%.
100%.
But then
1,000,000.
I don't think he should have done it. I think it's better off if you just go, Mike, I've been my wrist. Can I swear? Or no?
Bro, you your own man, bro.
Yeah.
You know, my wrist been fucked up the whole year. So, hey, if you open the door, I'm gonna take it. Yeah, but my wrist has been messed up the whole year. I don't want to risk it. I'm gonna get my surgery in. We back next year. But I think it was the accumulation of Dolphins fans already have a very skewed sort of perception of Tyreek as a whole. I mean, you see on Twitter. I mean, they don't really like the guy, to be honest. They think he's just here for a good time. And then you add that to the fact that he left the game and then he come out talking about I want to leave, saying, F this, I don't want to be here. Yeah, just an accumulation of it. But 6 months' time, everything will be all right.
So,
So
can I say one thing very quickly?
hold up.
Charlie, when we had Javon Holland on the podcast, remember when he was talking about, not knowing what it's like to lose? Because for him, throughout his entire career, all he's done is won. And
That's
he
most players in the NFL too.
exactly. So again, and I'm not defending Tyreek Hill for what he did, but to put yourself in the shoes where all you've known is winning. You've won you won a Super Bowl. You've got the playoffs every single year. You've been in the league 1,000 yards every single year, and now you're on a team for the first time and you haven't reached your goals. And you can be like, you know what? Yeah, that's really, really good. Yo, again, it's people want winners. And again, there's a way to be a winner and a way to behave, all that kind of stuff. People want players to care about losing and get really upset and emotional about it. And that's what Tyreek did. Tyreek has always been immature. From the moment he joined the league, he's been immature. And he even said, I don't want to speak to you right now. I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. And he was like, no, you have to speak. It's like, yo, I told you this was going to happen. Why are you surprised that I said something I'm going to regret when I told you I'm going to say something? Like, but again, it's, FinsExtra, you're in the UK WhatsApp group at the moment. It's toxic. The entire fan base is toxic, and people don't want to have, and people aren't having civil conversations, I should say. So yeah.
All right, bro.
Yeah, just fans of that.
Hey, if I move to the UK, I could be in the UK WhatsApp group chat.
Yeah.
Of course, man. Once
Hey,
you're in the UK, you're in the UK.
I like that. I'm telling you, I'm warming up. Listen, yeah, man. I just want to reiterate everything y'all just said. I didn't agree with what he did or how he did it, but at the same time, I don't think he should have been out there anyway. Everybody would have been mad if anyone got hurt. So why are we tripping that he pulled himself out the game? It's almost should have been like hey, you know what, Tyreek, you're right, because we just lost a couple players the same way. Like, it should have been something like that, but then the post-game comments made it worse. We about to get up out of here. Before we do, y'all, everyone knows I'm a proponent of Chris Greer. I think he failed us with the O-line and the backup quarterback, no doubt about it. But I think he has more hits than misses. I think he's still the right person for the job now. I think there's no way to keep him here, or there's no way to validate why he's here after the 2025 season if we don't have success, whatever we deem is success, right? So if that's 2 playoff wins at that time, if that's reaching the AFC Championship at that time, whatever success is for the consensus, if we don't have success, there's no reason for any of them to be here, in my opinion. That being said, I will put a bid in for who I think the GM should be if we're unsuccessful next year, because I think he'll be available, and it is Tom Telesco. We're about to get into bonus time. Tom Telesco is the GM for the Chargers, built the Chargers. The Chargers underperformed. Then he just got fired today. I think today or yesterday by the Raiders.
Today.
He was with the Raiders for 1 year, got fired. That was something that couldn't be saved anyway. But I do believe if off the top of my dome, I would say Tom Telesco is on deck if Chris Greer can't pull us out the slums. But FinsExtra, tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me on Twitter, FinsExtra. That's the only hub. That's where I'm at. That's the only space I'm at. Hopefully expand soon this off season, but right now Twitter at FinsExtra every time.
Booming too. Y'all know what time it is.
Insane.
Stay positive. Test negative. For Kadeem Simmons and FinsExtra, I'm Charlie Touche. Thank you for tuning in this time. Make sure you catch us next time on Go Time. Already.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time.
So we have a question in the comments, but before we get to that question, I just want to say very quickly about Tom Telesco. Me personally, I like that suggestion because he has experience as a GM. And again, I find it very funny how Miami Dolphin fans talk about, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Dolphin fans want Chris Greer to go and to bring in a GM from a different organization with no GM experience. So what you want is a complete rookie in the situation. Yes, they might have been in a different organization and they've seen how it's done, but until you get into that head seat, hey, it's a complete different situation. And I find it funny and quite interesting that, listen, if you're a GM without a job, you've probably failed somewhere else. But also, sometimes, you go elsewhere and it works out. Look at Andy Reid as a head coach and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Tom Telesco is someone who, now he's available, I would much rather bring in someone like him with experience and has been in multiple organizations than a complete newbie.
I gotta be real, Kadeem. 31 GMs fail every year. I'm just saying.
100%. Before we get to the question, anything you want to say on Tom Telesco or the GM search, potential GM search, FinsExtra?
Not really, to be honest. I'm more so on the Chris Greer. It's a difficult one because when you look at some of his track record when it comes to free agent signings and some of the draft picks I don't think that's the problem. I think the head coach is the problem. Now, it's not the head coach's fault, but I just think who he's hiring is the problem. Because really and truly, yeah, you can have Stephen Ross, who's been voted as the best owner in the NFL by the players last year. You can have the GM, but I think the reality is that if you don't have a head coach, is really stamping his foot in the culture and just not letting stuff slide. At the end of the day, I think it'll be pretty difficult to change. You can change the GM as much as you want. If you ain't got the head coach to put your team in position to succeed, I think it'll be pretty difficult. And like I said earlier on, I just believe in terms of if you want to have a successful team, you need a leader of men. Now you could say we had that with Flores with the lack of talent that we did, and obviously it was a bit sour at the end. But I feel like it fit without that sort of the personal issues that you had with the players and some of the personnel. I think that's the type of head coach I'd like to have on my team, to be honest. Because if you look at all the AFC playoff teams, leader of men all across the board. There's no sort of you look at one of the managers or one of the head coaches go, oh yeah, he's a cool little player caller. He just straight leader of men, people that you look at and go, I know he's respected in the change room, the locker room. So, you go from Bills, Kansas City, Chargers, Broncos, Texans, every team that's in the playoffs, they've got a leader of men. And when I think of Weave, sometimes I look at it and go, it just looks like a head coach. Like this just looks like this is the type of man that I want in those meetings leading the team. This is the type of man that when we win and he's handing out handballs, I want to hear him talk. I want to hear him ramping up the troops because you guys see the locker room videos after the games. Yeah, it's cool, but there's a complete difference from when Matt McDaniel's talking and then Calais Campbell gets in there and there's a completely different vibe. Jordan Brooks gets in there, it's a completely different vibe. The players just respond differently. So I feel like it's more than just the GM. We can get rid of Chris Greer, get Tom Telesco, and then don't get the right head coach. I feel like the head coach is probably the most, apart from the quarterback, when you're talking about personnel, I think the head coach is the most important piece in the organization because he's the one that's going to tie the GM, the additions that the GM makes, and the players. And I feel like, not Anthony Weaver per se, but that mode of leader of men going to go in there, set the record straight, and he's not going to let anything slide. It's not little fines or whatever.
Like Brian Flores.
It's more closer to Brian Flores than now. Brian Flores' issue for what they're saying in terms of his temperament and character, which is a real issue because at the end of the day, you don't want to work for someone that's just hard to deal with. But it was more so he just couldn't hire an offensive staff to save his life. We went from a co-offensive coordinator or Chan Gailey or the other way around. I can't remember. So it was just a mess as a whole, the offense. But we had a mess of an offense, but we still managed to get a winning record every year. And if the ball fell a certain way in certain games, we would have made playoffs. But yeah, that's my type of head coach, and I feel like until then we can change GMs as much as we want. Until we don't get the head coach right and we get a leader of men that's going to go in there, stamp his foot on the ground and go, listen, if you're late, you're not going to get in. This is not set the law because the players are going to listen to the head coach. That's the voice of reason in that locker room in those meetings. And until that happens, it'll be pretty difficult to do that, to be honest.
Hey, so I know you say there's a question we're going to, Kadeem, but hear me out. I heard everything you said, which I agree with a lot of it. I don't care who the head coach is if we're winning. I'm gonna just be real with you. I don't care who it is. My thing is, as a Dolphin fan, though, if I'm just going by eye test, and we're a little bit, the three of us here, we're not the average Dolphin fan. If you have a platform where you got thousands of followers, bro, you're not the average Dolphin fan. Booming. If you got a platform, Kadeem, where you have a podcast, you're not the average Dolphin fan, bro. Like you gotta be a little more over the top to do some of the things that we do. That being said, I just said we're not the average Dolphin fan, but as the average Dolphin fan, let me be real. If you're watching the Dolphins on the surface level and you see how exciting this team was last year, and you see how exciting the team was the year before last, and you see how close we got to the playoffs 2 seasons before that. Well, 1 season before that with Flores. And then, even one with Adam Gase, we actually made the playoffs. My thing is bringing in a new coach, right? But then the Dolphins haven't had a top 10 offense in over 20 seasons. But we have one every year now with McDaniel. You're giving, you're taking, and you're adding, you're losing, you're subtracting, you're adding, subtracting. What is more important? You know what I'm saying? So I don't, ideally, you bring in a head coach to keep us as a top 10 offense, perennial offense, but wins games and goes to the playoffs, go to the Super Bowl. But it's like, I see progress. We see progress now. And look, I'm all for it if we clean house next year. I'm cool. All right, well, we
But
blew
then to that point, I mean, what he's been able to do, the offense obviously can't go without saying. But Tyreek Hill, Jaden Waddle, we got some players now compared to a couple years ago. We got some guys. We got according to the players, we got the best player in the whole NFL.
Yeah, straight
So
up.
you know, when to that, I mean, if you compare our wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 to 3 years ago, it's a different story. And some people, and you know what, I mean, when Brian Flores got sacked, I was a bit, what we doing? But then when we got Mike McDaniel, I'm in the boat that we should keep him. Now, when it comes to the GM, it's more so, okay, I believe the head coach is the more important one here, because you can have both of those combined. You can have a great play caller and you can have a leader of men. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's that. Or you could just have the leader of men and then just make sure you hire great offensive staff. I mean, that's what, I mean, 4 years ago, people were saying that Dan Campbell can coach. They used to rah-rah coach, and then he got Ben Johnson, who was on the Dolphins. And now he's literally refusing to head coach because he's got all the leverage in the world. I mean, I can't remember the last time a guy said, I've got all this motion, I got all these teams wanting me. I don't want a head coach this year. I'll come back next year and I'll be this good. So, you know, Andy Reid's play caller, leader. Sean Payton, play caller, leader. But then you got Sean McDermott, defensive but leader. You got D'Amico Ryans, defensive but leader. I mean, there's always the leader, play caller but leader, defensive but leader. There's always and leader. So
Can I just interject very quickly?
yeah.
I don't think it's a leader thing. I'm looking at the playoffs, and all I see are teams who have had a quarterback for at least 15 games. Because when the Dolphins have had a quarterback for at least 15 games, like, they're in the playoffs. And I think whatever you think of McDaniel, having Tua for 6.5 games was a massive thing. Because again, Sean McVay, I've never really seen him as a leader of men, but he's just a really, really good play caller. The Packers have Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
I know. Are you Nick Sirianni? Nick Sirianni seems like an absolute prick. Most people don't seem to like him, but Nick Sirianni has.
You pretty accurate with the last 3 names you just said.
I honestly look at Sean McVay as someone that can rally up the troops. I mean, watching the mic'd ups from the Super Bowl and stuff like that, and
I disagree. I disagree, bro. But I feel you. I just disagree.
I honestly, now, in terms of, if I go through the playoff picture that this year, I understand your point in terms of, I mean, I think if Tua quarterbacks is the whole year, I think we just make the playoffs. And this conversation don't even exist, and we're waiting for the Dolphins to play this week. But then would the conversation arise if we lost again? Let's say we're the 7th seed and we're playing Buffalo. Would this conversation be the same thing again if we went out there and lost?
Tua plays most of the season, we're not the 7th seed, though.
I think, but let's say we're 7th seed, worst case scenario. I think we make the playoffs ahead of the Broncos. Now, I do believe that when you mentioned the offense over the last 2 seasons, and I know it's easy to just go, but when we play better teams, we kind of crumble, or whatever you want to say. But I mean, there's a point to that. There's a point to why does our production reduce, whether it's guys are not making plays or Tua or Tyreek, whoever you want to blame. But it's proofs in the pudding, and there has to be a reason behind it. We've got the players, and last year we had the players, and it's just not working out for whatever reason. And I believe that one of the reasons, obviously, none of this will work regardless of head coach if Tua's not available. But if Tua's available, I just believe that honestly we can be a better football team, and we can get over the top of what we are now and be more of a balanced team with a more structured sort of way of going about it. if we had, like, for example, a D'Amico Ryans type sort of head coach. Not D'Amico
Hold on,
Ryans.
real quick, Kadeem. Hey, we still live, and peek behind the curtain, like Kadeem like to say. And we're about to get up out of here because Kadeem has to go. But when we have guests on the show, people tend to ask us, "Hey, thanks for having me on the show. What are we talking about?" Right? And FinsExtra kind of shot a little, "Hey, what's the topic for the show today?" And I kind of threw a little side, "Hey, bro, we really don't do topics. We just jump on and we just go with it." And all of a sudden, this bonus time could have been a whole episode on its own. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I was trying to tell you, bro. Like, yo, we just gonna ride with it and see what happens. And then that's it, bro. But go ahead, Kadeem.
Yeah. The question was, without Tyreek, how does this offense look? I was just going to say, was it the Paper Planes game last year where there was no Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle just went off, just cooked DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner like they don't exist. So I think the Dolphins offense will be fine without Tyreek Hill. Waddle seems to step up when he is wide receiver one. But if Waddle does go, if Hill does go, we genuinely need to get Waddle a jugs machine and a whole bunch of guys in that building. Yo, for your birthday or for Christmas, you're getting a jug machine because you guys can't catch. So, yeah. Anything else before?
I'll be real. Just because, what does the team look like without Tyreek? Today, it's not going to look like anything. It's not going to look like much. But to be real with you, if we lose Tyreek, we have an opportunity to basically replace and try to repair something in his place for him being gone. So we just don't lose him and there's a vacancy. Like, we have an opportunity to replace that hole. So, and again, like, if I trust Chris Greer, and since we have an opportunity now, Chris Greer might even be able to trade for a disgruntled receiver for Tyreek. And then now we have not an upgrade, but we have a solid replacement for Tyreek. So what does the team look like without Tyreek is to be determined as of today.
Fins, what do you think it looks like without Tyreek? Quickly.
I believe that, just like Charlie said, I honestly believe by him leaving, it's addiction by subtraction. I mean, you let him go, so now you use the, whatever you're able to get through him and the cap space. Obviously, it depends on the cap hit, but offensive line, just shore up the run game, because the run game is non-existent without an offensive line. So you shore that up. You kind of go the Bills and Chiefs route, which is, we don't need the super wide receiver one. Just get a good wide receiver, shore up the offensive line, rely on the run game when you need to, or make plays when you need to. Because the Chiefs and the Bills, they got a decent quarterback, but what have they said over the last 2 years? We don't need a Tyreek Hill. We don't need a Stephon Diggs. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play some good D, and Mahomes and Bill and Allen should make the plays they need to. So I feel like, I think we'll be just fine, to be honest. If anything, be more balanced. Because right now, you don't get the ball anyway. Yeah, he gets doubled, but Jamar Chase gets doubled, Justin Jefferson gets doubled, all those guys get doubled, and they still end up 100 yards every game. So,
the Bills and Chargers figured out we gotta make Herbert.
Chargers is a perfect example.
Herbert and Allen gotta throw the ball less because we can't trust them to throw it. So let's have them run it more. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No, I just believe that that's the best. If you want to win championships, I mean, the Chiefs lost. They said, Tyreek Hill, you can go. We'll replace you with Juju Smith-Schuster, and we're still going to win Super Bowls. We're just going to shore up this offensive line here, run the ball to death, and then Patrick Mahomes, and then the Chargers have done the same exact thing this year. I mean, it's pretty difficult to name all three wide receivers apart from Lamar McConkey. And they said, everyone was telling them, draft neighbors. Nah, we're going to draft Joe, another offensive tackle, even though we've been drafting offensive tackles for the last 2 years. And now, look, completely changed everything. Turnover to TD ratio off the charts. So it's just, I believe that's the best way to go about it. But, it was fun to watch last year, though. It was,
All I'm going to say is, my bad, Kadeem. And this is the last thing for me. For everyone who wanted a Tua to do X, Y, and Z and prove he was a quarterback and prove he was a passer and all this stuff and compare him to Herbert, it's funny to me that Herbert's best season, as far as taking a team to where he's taken them, I mean, he's been to the playoffs before. He's not the Herbert that we remember. He's basically Chad Pennington 2.0, and now this is where his best success has come from, and he's not that elite passer that everyone said he was. So it's funny how this conversation has has bent the corner a little bit. But go ahead, Kadeem, get us out of here.
I dare Justin Herbert to lose the playoff game. That's all I'm saying, because I'm coming back for both of you. Anyway, guys, we shall see you soon. Peace.